We are moving to last session. Our speaker is Dr. Narasimha Murthy SV. He's an assistant professor, Department of English, School of Engineering, Presidency University, Bangalore, since May 2019. He His academic responsibilities are course in charge for technical spoken communication in Presidency University. He is also acts as a research supervisor. His academic achievements is BOS member in Jain University, Bangalore, and BOS member JSS College of Arts and Science and Commerce, Mysore. He awarded by Lavender Literary Club, Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu as a distinguished resource person. He published many research papers in international journals, and he worked as resource person as many conferences. We are very happy to have you, sir. Now I am hand over in the session to you, sir. Session is yours.
Thank you, Gino sir, for that warm introduction and welcome. Good evening, friends. And after a heavy downpour from Dr. Veeramani, I'm wondering what can I do? Because I have been listening to him for almost last 45 minutes. It was interesting. It was informative. And more than anything, it was interactive. And I am from literature background because this is my submission to all of you. Anything related, not related to literature or literary background, I will cut a sorry figure. That's my humble submission to you. And today, I've been asked to discuss with you. I don't say that I'll make any present. I don't make any presentation, of course. I'm an old school timer. I belong to that tradition of speaking, and I believe firmly that that is better. No, it's my personal view and opinion. That's better than making PPT or the use of technology. Not that I don't use, I use, but still, as I endorse with Dr. Veeramani when he says, about the plagiarism check, it checks words, not the ideas. And the most wonderful observation by him was, if you rewrite the whole sentence, you can escape plagiarism check. That is a very interesting observation. And of late, we have been getting theses for evaluation, articles for review. When we read, we feel that the brain somewhere it suggests that I think this idea is somewhere from there, from here. So like that, I totally endorse with him the limitation of technology. And let me come to the topic, today's topic. I'll take very short time, not more than 35 minutes, at the most 35 minutes. And I'll restrict myself to the structure of a thesis. When I say the structure of a thesis, I'm concentrating much on the literature thesis that we submit, because that is my area of expertise, or that is the area that I'm working with. So now I'll begin with a brief introduction of a thesis and its structure. What is basically a thesis, or how to write a thesis? Let me begin with two answers, plausible answers of what is a thesis. See, this word thesis, it comes from a Greek word which means something put forth. We can say that it is an intellectual proposition. Sometimes it is a compiled document. Compiled document. So with a lot of tongue in cheek, I'm using this word compiled document. Compiled, because most of our theses that we are finding these days, they're compiled. In fact, a thesis usually contains facts and figures, arguments and suggestions, experiments and results, and all other stuff, lot of things in thesis. And the extent of the project, it depends on the nature of the topic. Sometimes in-depth research and rules and regulations of different universities, they demand different uh, formulations, regulations for this thesis, writing thesis. Basically, these 6 things, they determine our thesis. The first is topic. The second is research. Then synopsis, style, presentation, and conclusion. I'm speaking very broadly here. I'll go in detail to everything little later. Let me talk about this. The first thing, the choice of the topic. Somebody was asking about a similar thing, a question to Dr. Veeramani. See, most of the time, the choice of the topic will make you live through the 3 years or 4 years of your research. It's quite a long time. It's quite a long time. In fact, whenever a research scholar comes to me for anything, I usually talk to him. I keep asking him, what is your interest? And very interestingly, today, there was a PhD interview in our department, and I was one of the examiners. And that girl, very young girl of 20 to 23 years, very ambitious girl, she was talking and she was telling that she was talking about gender studies. Gender studies. I said, excellent. And I asked her a simple question like, what are the primary texts? What are the primary texts? Poor girl had never thought of anything like that. And she was very honest, and I appreciate her. She said, I was just thinking of teachers. We know that the moment you are stuck at a word, that means your ideas are not clear and you do not have clarity. Then she gave a very surprising answer, something like Jane Austen's works. Then I took it. I took the answer. And I never discourage any scholar. I took the answer, but my young colleague, said, have you done any literature review? Then she was surprised, and of course, another senior colleague explained to her that Jane Austen, will you please check any research articles or PhD dissertations, theses, all those things you check and then get back to me if you want to still work on Jane Austen. I'm not saying that you cannot work on Jane Austen, definitely, but this choice of the topic, is a very daunting task. It is always very difficult task. For me, the moment you finalize your topic, 50% of work is done there, because by then, you should have done a lot of research, study, survey, analysis. And remember, most of the students, they try to pick an original and relevant topic. But remember, if the topic is not relevant, if the topic is not original, definitely you are going to face issues at least when it comes to writing and when it comes to Viva. And remember, the topic should serve the purpose. The purpose, what is the purpose? Is it only to get a degree? Only to get a degree? Because there are many students that we see these days, they want a PhD. They want a PhD. And as Dr. Dr. Veeramani was suggesting one cliche question that we all ask, what is your contribution? What is your contribution? And sometimes, I laugh when I listen to such questions. What is your contribution? Because most of our PhDs do not contribute much. I'm not saying that they never contribute, but not much. First thing, when you choose a topic, check the requirements and conditions laid down by the department. And another thing, you should decide. You should decide, and this should become a passion. Like do you want to work on completely something new topic, or work on existing one? And do a deep research on all the available research papers and articles. We call it literature review. Just list down all those ideas, shortlist some of them, and then it's a kind of a lot of work for this. Now you can choose any one of the shortlisted topics. Then definitely you need a mentor. So you can definitely go back to your teachers. Teachers are a wonderful resource for and they definitely they can counsel you, they can mentor you, they can really give you a proper guidance. Once that is done, once you are done with the choice of the topic, then you can think of some kind of a synopsis. Prepare a synopsis. It's just a base paper implementation, just grasping the knowledge from the amount of work that has already been put into your selected topic. Remember, a synopsis is an introduction to your report. Explicative and well defined, of course, which should define your aims and objectives also. And remember, it should be more appealing with a catchy title. No, I have seen these students come out with a title which runs into a sentence. It takes some time. Don't worry much about the title in the beginning. Select the topic, narrow down it, and then something kind of a background detail. You should make some study. When I say background detail, at least some theoretical framework that you are going to use or apply. You need to do some kind of literature survey, modern literature survey, some kind of a theoretical base, theoretical framework. And you should try to get a first-hand knowledge. See, when I look at some thesis, any thesis or any article, I find this is lacking a lot actually. Theory for the sake of theory. No, theory should be blent with your topic. Then after this, you can create an outline. You can create an outline. Here, when you want to create the outline, you should be able to answer the question how. Like what is your procedure? What are your tools, techniques, criteria on which your thesis is developed? These things you can think, and also you can have a time plan, because every university expects a half-yearly report, and you can divide the work into 6 half-yearly or 8 half-yearly, depending on the university stipulated period. And these things, will help you in planning, so that your research becomes very systematic and methodical. So once you start the research, yes, you will start exploring. The more and more you explore, you'll bury deep and deep into the topic, and without your knowledge, you would have gone much deeper. And therefore, you should always think of a thesis writing as a very serious affair, a very serious thing. Look at this. Usually, before you start writing any thesis, you would have collected a lot of secondary sources and used primary sources to substantiate your stand. And largely speaking, this is how your thesis looks. Now I'll just share this page because we are going to discuss this in detail. Yeah, this is the thesis structure. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So now I'll go deep into thesis structure. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to discuss all these things. Any thesis in English, literature in particular, it usually it begins with this structure: title page, and then an abstract, table of contents, lists of figures and list of tables if we have used it. Usually when our research is quantitative, these things become very significant. In fact, one of my students has made an excellent table and graph. He has used a lot of technology and he has made a lot of presentation, especially in literature review. Uh, he has written a paper on it actually, and he has submitted it for publication also. How he has done this literature review and how he has arrived at this topic, that looks a very interesting thing for me. And then of course we have an introduction. In the introduction we talk about methods and the results we briefly, and the discussion is the different chapters that we are going to take. Whether it can be thematic chapters, or it can be novels or poetry, plays, drama, whatever it may be. And then we have conclusions, recommendations, acknowledgements, references, and appendices. This is broadly speaking, is the structure of a thesis, and I'm going to throw light on what are the things and how do we go about this in our thesis work. Okay, and with this I'll stop sharing. As I already told you, I believe in talking. I believe in interacting, and you can stop me at any point of time. You can stop me at any point of time, and you can add with me also, because I told you this I would like to be interactive and I would like to have discussion than one way. And I don't believe in this one way lecture method. Okay, usually the title, as we all know, including subtitle, the author, institution affiliation, department, date of delivery, sometimes month and year, research supervisor, their institution, and email addresses. All these things are the title page, and you will get it. You just go to Google and Google it. You will get a lot of information about it. I'm not going to give much details about this, but let me talk about the next part. That is the abstract. That is the abstract. See, this is a very, very significant part of any thesis. So in abstract, what do you get? First thing, the significance of your research, the significance of your article is always mentioned in the abstract. Not only that, you will get a summary of your major research. Major research. What is your work? And towards the end, you're going to answer the question, what is your contribution? What is your gain, or what did you learn from this research, or what is your contribution to the this world? And remember, a good abstract is always concise, readable, and qualitative. Usually the length of this abstract, we say not more than 2 to 3 paragraphs. And sometimes, whatever information is there in the title will be repeated, and we have to be very explicit in our abstract. And some of these questions have to be answered in an abstract. Questions like, what did you do? Why did you do it? So you are talking about your what is the topic, why you're going to justify your stance. What question were you trying to answer? Remember, all research questions, we have to formulate one research question finally, and we have to find answer. Next, how did you do it? The moment you say how, the methodology comes. What is the methodology that you have adopted? Is it qualitative, quantitative, or some other various ways of the different methods? When I can give another lecture, another session on that. Then what did you learn? What are your findings? What are your findings? What are the results? Major results. And finally, very important thing, why does it matter? Why do you think it is a contribution or it's a significant contribution? At least in an abstract, you should mention at least one very significant contribution that you have made in this field of study. It's a very important thing. And remember, abstract is a gateway to your thesis. Therefore, these questions like what did you do, why did you, how did you, what is your gain, and why does it matter? All these questions, when you answer these things, definitely your thesis examiner. See, I'm talking from examiner point of view also. He'll be very happy because he will have a clarity before reading further reading. So this clarity should be given in an abstract. Then, of course, we have table of contents with page numbers, blah blah. I'm not going to detail again with this because simply thing, just list all the headings and subheadings with page numbers. And if you Google, you'll find plenty of table of contents. Again, I'm not going to detail about this. Next, I'll go to the introduction. What is there that should be included in a good introduction? A good introduction is always, is a gateway. Remember, abstract is a miniature essence of the thesis, essence of the research work that you have done. But you should open the doors, and the doors will be opened through the introduction. It's a kind of a initiating the reader through your studies. It's a kind of a persuasive component for me. So trying someone to convince somebody, to help somebody, to make somebody get interest in your work. And remember, usually this introduction comes out very well if you complete all your other chapters and then come back and write an introduction. Never try to write your introduction first, because sometimes your introduction and your thesis, they may go in two different ways. Sometimes they travel in parallel. No, that should not happen. Therefore, take care that introduction should be written towards the end of your thesis or paper. It's a kind of a drawing the attention of the reader to the complete document. Then what else should be there in the introductory section of a thesis or a research article? First thing, you should talk about the objective of the paper, objective of the thesis, and the purpose of the study, and also Why did you write this thesis? And remember here, you have already mentioned this in your abstract, but again, limit the scope there so that you can explain, you can describe in detail here. Then of course you need to give some background information. When I say background information, I was telling you about the theoretical framework on which your research is based on, and the context and the significance of the research question that you're dealing with. And also, you must acknowledge the previous work, because I believe in this saying of T.S. Eliot's tradition and the individual talent. There will be always a tradition, and your thesis or your article will be a individual talent. Remember, after some time, it falls into the canon of the tradition. So, how different is your work from the existing work? That actually should be there. And of course, introduction should be focused on the thesis question, thesis statement, or the research question. And remember, this is a place where you can summarize everything that you have read about the topic, everything that you can bring in a lot of information here, and explain at the same time, talk about your scope, limitations, what will be included and what not is included. It's a kind of a verbal roadmap or a verbal table of content. I told you, as a kind of an initiation into your serious research. And at the same time, you should remember that introduction need not be like a review paper, because you have read so much. You may try to borrow, choose, pick, and borrow from different sources. No, introduction should be your own, but you can substantiate your stance. You can justify your point of view with the help of citations, references. You may agree with something or you may contradict with something. At the same time, you should be able to justify your stance with the help of references. And towards the end of the introduction, you should definitely give the chapterization. Should definitely give chapterization, because after that, automatically the chapterization begins. At the same time, in the introduction, you should talk about the methods. The moment I say methods, it's a kind of giving credibility to your work. And another researcher who may replicate your experiment, he may use this methodology, your materials, procedure, theory that you have adapted, calculations, technique, procedure, equipment, and calibration plots. All these things, you should talk about the methodology that you have used. And these days, research supervisors are very particular. All of us have become very conscious. First thing that we ask is the primary text. Second thing that we ask is, what is the theory? What is the theory? Theoretical framework. And most of the students that I met, they come with post-colonial theory, or they end up with completely different theory. That's a different thing. But I don't know why our research scholars, to begin with, I'm not a one, most of them, they're very comfortable with post-colonial theory. Whereas, when one should understand that post-colonial theory is almost an outdated theory. We have a lot of offshoots. I'm not totally rejecting that theory, but not that we have studied, during our MBA days, that those theories are not relevant anymore by the time you submit. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about after 3 years, after 4 years. That should not become an absolute. So next, you talk about the limitations, assumptions, and range of validity, especially you are when you are making a quantitative research, all these things, and if you describe your analytical methods, and if you're using any software, you should also talk about that. Here, this methods section, in the method section, you should always, give all the original and adjustable parameters. And then somebody was talking about replicating, a kind of manipulating data. It's possible. And most for people, they find it very easy to manipulate data than work hard. And then, yeah, I do not want to speak much about that. And remember, citations in this section, should be as less as possible. And now you should also talk about the results in this. Briefly, in the introduction, you should talk about the results also. And try to use as many headings and subheadings as possible. And for this, you can always discuss with your supervisor. Definitely, he will help you. Next, I'll come to the chapterization, where I would like to term it as discussion. Every chapter should begin with a quotation. That would be a better way of starting it, so that you will have a clarity. First, you will have a clarity, and also when you have clarity, you will transfer that clarity to the reader also. This discussion, again, depends on what is your theoretical framework. How are you going to apply this into your primary text? How are you going to analyze it? How are you going to critically examine all relationships, trends, and generalizations of the theory to the real thing? And what are the exceptions to the patterns established or generalizations that may be there? And there will be multiple hypotheses. And remember, you should include the evidence or line of reasoning supporting each interpretation. See, this is something very, very significant, where we will use a lot of references and citations. In fact, take care that what are you talking about here? What are you discussing about here? What is it that makes it your own? Rather, you can bring a lot of citations, references, all those things. If your research, if your thesis, or if your article is full of that, then you are going to miss the originality. Therefore, remember that you should take care. That you, for example, I'll just take one example. You are working on four novels, and as usual, very common, some thematic concerns, some thematic study, something. You can take 4 themes in 4 novels, or you can take one theme across all the novels and discuss each novel separately, justifying your stance and your viewpoint. And you can definitely give new insights into the study of those novels. You can interpret. Your interpretation has to be substantiated. That can be done in. Finally, we'll come to the last part, that is conclusions. In conclusion, you have to have more clarity. What is that your observation? What is your major observation? How did you arrive at this conclusion? And most important thing, see, somebody will read your thesis, and what do you expect him to remember after some months also? Something that haunts him. See, if you watch a very good movie and come out of the movie, the one scene, one particular scene, it haunts you. The similar way, something should haunt the reader. He should be able to, it should not be easy for him to forget this or ignore this. And always in the conclusion, you should go back to your objectives, research goals, research questions, and you should be able to relate to that objectives. How did you fulfill those objectives? How did you find the answers to or solutions to the research problem? Summarize your new observations, new interpretations, and new insights that you have already got during your research time or period. Summarize all of them. And remember, include the broader implications of your findings. Not only that, very important thing is avoid the word for word in the abstract introduction and discussion. And to be very precise, to be very clear, you need to repeat the same ideas, but not the same words. And that you will learn during your practice of writing, and during the process of doing research, you will learn. It's a skill, it's an art, and which can be possible by practice and definitely by repeatedly practicing writing and writing and writing. Fortunately, today's your job is more easier comparatively, very easy. Now, people of my generation would feel it very uncomfortable to use technology, but my students, my research scholars, I sometimes they submit one chapter and I make a lot of corrections, and I always I believe in correcting it myself. Even now, I was correcting a chapter by one of my research scholars, the second chapter, and I give him, in one day he will incorporate all the corrections. Not only that, sometimes I'll ask him to rewrite, and then sometimes I doubt that he must be using some software of rewriting, rephrasing. He'll do it in a very wonderful manner, and when he speaks, it's not replicated. I find it some difference when he speaks, the language that he uses. When he writes, of course, his writing is very good, and definitely some software will definitely help you. Like I was told that there is a software for paraphrasing. At the same time, you talk about recommendations. In recommendations, you should include the appropriate thing. What are the remedial action that may help to solve the problem? Not only that, you should mention the topics for further study. Because while doing research, you may come across many other gaps, which you may have noticed or unnoticed at the beginning of your research, but by the course at the end of the research, you might have come across. And definitely, you should mention at least some 2 to 3 topics or ideas for further investigation, further research. Of course, finally, acknowledgements. And of course, this usually comes before the abstract sometimes. Again, you should technically, intellectually, financially, people are morally, most important thing, morally support. Include all of them. Your supervisor, assistants, service, departmental support, travel cards, whatever it may be. And finally, of course, we have reference. And remember, you should bring in as many references as possible. Sometimes, students will ask me, sir, is 150 references enough? My ready-made answer is no, always. But If all the 150 references are valid, up to date, definitely you can take that. But any research thesis, you need to study a lot. You need to study a lot, and there are different styles of citations, and definitely you can refer to MLA book, handbook. So we have a very recent edition, ninth edition. So all those things you will be helped by technology. And for me, after writing, something this is, I feel very interesting. I'll just take another 2 to 3 minutes. Always, we write a draft. And I find this mistake, I've been observing this, as an examiner, as a research supervisor. Now, our students, scholars, they once they come, they will be so happy. Oh, the work is done. Throw it on the face of the supervisor. Let him go take it. No, never do that mistake. Read, and best thing, once you complete, take a break, complete break, freshen up yourself, then go back and read at least some 6 to 7 times each paragraph. Check for spelling mistakes. Spell checkers are very useful, but I as I told you in the beginning, I believe in manual spell check more than, because there will be usually homonyms. Sometimes the spell check will not take care, but that's the limitation of technology. And another thing is, complete sentences. When you write such a big, huge number of words, pages, naturally here and there, we'll miss some sentence grammatical errors, sentence structures. Check for grammatical mistakes, punctuation in particular, sentence structure, subject verb agreement, tense consistency. All these things, they're technical, but they play a very important role in. And for that, you can definitely depend on 2 to 3 peer scholars, your own friends, your teachers who are ready to help. You can take the help of them. Give them one chapter each. Ask them to comment on the editing part. So when I say editing, I was talking about only syntactical. Now, content editing, revising, you have to do it. For example, logic. Somewhere, somewhere you may not have established logically a point. There may be repetition. You may talk about some relevance, style. All these things, you should definitely take care. And avoid ambiguity in your research. And then this is more important. Avoid ambiguity. So with this, I will stop here, because as I have told you already, I have taken a little more time, only 45, 50 minutes. I'll stop here. And thank you, Frank Joyson, for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. And you're most welcome to share your ideas. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Kasturi Sinha.
Oh,
Yes, you
yes.
are audible.
Sir, I have 3 questions for you.
Excellent.
So, sir, my first question is, suppose I'm a creative writer and not an academic writer, and I want to write a research paper. So how much creativity should I put in there, or the paper should only have academic approach towards any of the topic which I take? And
I'll answer this question and then I'll take up second
okay, sir.
question if you don't
Okay,
mind.
okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, in the beginning itself, I told you a research document is a compiled one. I'm not saying that there is no scope for creativity. The moment you say creative, it becomes kind of a fiction. I think you will agree with me.
Yes, sir.
So the moment I say research, the moment I say research article, I need to substantiate my stance with some supporting evidences. And you can be highly creative. There is absolutely nothing wrong. But, you should draw somewhere a line between creativity and academic excellence. That depends on your ability, your language, and your style of convincing somebody. It can be completely creative. And remember, if you are very creative, people will take you as a reference. Your article or your thesis will become a reference to many researchers. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And my second question is, sir, does the creative writing has weightage in the field of academics, especially for the scholar of English literature students?
I am sorry to say that creativity is usually curbed in our system of research. I am brutal. I may sound brutal, but I'm honest. We research supervisors, examiners, we expect always a proposition, a thesis statement, then supported by some theoretical framework. We restrict ourselves. In a way. I agree with you that creativity is usually curbed in academic research. It is. And your third question?
Okay, sir. Sir, no, actually, I wanted to ask in the second question only that creative writing, like suppose a person is a student or one of your scholars is very good in writing poems and very good in writing the stories or the good articles apart from the research work. So, like, is it considered when, like, in the academic field?
Considered for what? For the award of a degree?
Yes, for the award of the degree as well as for the job perspective.
Job perspective, it depends. It depends on the institution that hires you. But for degree, I don't think so. As an academician, as a professor of a university, as a research supervisor, I would not suggest my scholars to do that. For the degree sake, not for the development. I would appreciate, I would encourage everybody to write something on their own. Even, I would encourage someone who writes a blog. Because a blog is also sometimes creative. But not for any award of any certificates or degrees. And sometimes, our creativity becomes blunt when we do some research, pure academic work.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So my third question is how to structure a good research paper and few of the good journals, if you can suggest us.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. This first question, I'll try to give answer. Any good research article must have about 3,000 to 3,500 words, depending again, that depends purely on the journal that you are aiming for. And usually we have an introduction part. Again, this introduction, is about, I'll give you the word specification also. 600 words will do. Another 600 words, you can definitely take up theoretical framework or the methodology or any other conceptual background. So it becomes 1200. Another 1800 will be your original paper, where you are going to analyze, you're going to explain, you're going to describe, you're going to critically examine a topic, the research question. That makes almost 3000 words, and another 500 for conclusion. Here I want to give you an idea which I got from a friend of mine. Now he says, if you are good at writing those 1800 words, you can write an article. And you can plan that. You can plan that, and this will be the basic structure of a research article. And what was your last part of the question?
Sir, if you can suggest us some good
Good
journals,
journals.
specifically for English literature students.
There are many UGC journals. I'll share my email ID. I can send you. I have a list of journals. Only thing is,
Okay,
it
sir.
is not in this system. It is not in this system. That system that is there in the university has got that. So I do not carry my system. I have two systems 1 year, and definitely, Kasturi ma'am, I'll be able to help you at least with some good journals, UGC journals or Scopus also, in which I have published, and my scholars have published, my colleagues have published, recognized also. Not
Thank you so much, sir.
please.
Thank you, sir, for very informative talk.
Excuse me, sir.
Dear participants,
Yes, Ranjita ma'am, please.
Thank you, sir. My research area is gender studies. To say specific, it is related with pure literary studies. I'm intending to apply a particular theory with two British authors, namely Alan James Hollyhurst and Jeanette Winterson. Since you told post-colonial study, it is an outdated one. Whether do you think my research will be really scopeful, sir?
I said post-colonial theory as it is, but your theory is gender studies. That too, if I'm right, LGBTQ.
Yeah, right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So this is something very, very recent and relevant. It will be there for the next 10 years. Ranjita, definitely you need not worry about that, man.
Okay, sir. Thank
Definitely
you.
need not worry. And you have chosen a very virgin field, I would like to say. And the authors that you have chosen are I don't think many have worked on that also.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, one more
Sir,
question.
there is one question. Okay. So sorry.
Sir, what are the methods can be used in my research, sir? To say exactly what kind of methodologies I can apply in my research, sir.
First thing, you should discuss this with your supervisor. First
Okay,
thing.
sir.
Second thing, the university has some rules and regulations. Okay. Generally, I can say that, you can analyze, you can criticize, or you can take, traditional approaches, like study, applying how to relate the theoretical aspect with the primary text. So better you discuss this with your research scholar, supervisor. Particularly, we supervisors, we're a bit nasty people. We're a bit nasty people. We have a closeted mind, and we would love to our scholars to travel like this only. Some of us, not all of us. Some of us, we are nasty people, old people, no.
Okay, sir. But actually, my guide suggested to attend this conference, and she has actually recommended these questions, because I was keep on asking these questions to her, and she asked to you should ask these kind of questions to the forum so that I can get good answers for that only. So she is really appreciative. Whenever I learn a lot from others.
She is very, very shrewd. She has transferred her headache to some of us, hasn't she? Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. No, I'll tell you. When did you start your research?
Sir, I've started my research. It's been around 1 year, sir.
Oh, it will by now, you must have got some hold of some theoretical aspects and
Yeah.
how to bring them into real context, how to contextualize. It will take at least 1 year, 18 months to 24 months, and you will be able to do it. You will be able to do it. Give time. Give
Okay,
yourself some time. You will be able to do it. Good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Sir, there are two questions of mine.
Yes.
One is, what is the ideal number of co-authors in a research publication? Like, while publishing research, how many co-authors should be taken into consideration? And the second one, if you allow me,
Please.
what is the benefit of being a peer reviewer?
Okay. First, I'll talk about the number of co-authors. In science articles, in technical articles, I have seen 5 authors. 5 authors. Because they will take up a problem and they will divide it into 5 parts or something like that. Or they work together and they produce a paper. And it is usually, I find very good Scopus publications with 5 authors. But in literature, I would suggest you to limit it only to 3 people.
Okay.
2 is better. 2 is better. 3 is good. But I'll tell you, 1 is the best.
One is the
I'll
best.
tell you. Some of our colleagues, they become so lethargic that they want the name. They want the name. And initially, they'll be so happy, they'll be so enthusiastic. And finally, and Sahil ma'am has to do all the work and give them credit. Give them credit. So I suggest, personally, not to include more than 1. 2 authors.
Okay.
1 plus 1. So that you can have a clear division of labor.
Okay. So one is my guide and other is as a research scholar, correct? Is the ideal combination of publishing research paper or any other like publication.
Your guide is kind of a ghost presence. He has to be there. He has to be there.
You have said no. You have to haunt the haunt the reader. So okay.
The guides,
Thank you.
Being a supervisor, I can understand whatever that my students do. I'll get the credit. Sometimes I really contribute, and sometimes I may not. I want to be honest. In one Scopus publication, in fact, I did not do anything. Rather, I could not do anything. The scholar did everything, and now I can claim that I have a Scopus paper.
Okay. The thing is, actually, many proposals get rejected while while doing RCC or something. So whatever the proposal I've rejected, can I convert it into conceptual theory as a research paper, theoretical research paper, while saying a review on? Is this a correct process?
Please do it. Please do it.
Okay.
Never get discouraged. Never discouraged because loco binna ruchi. People will look at from different angles. Never be discouraged. And I'm very happy that you have a positive bent of mind. Definitely convert it. And you are talking about very interesting thing about peer reviewer. Peer reviewer.
Yes, sir. Peer reviewer.
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting thing according to me, because you will learn the writing style of another person. First thing. And you will get new insights about the topic, and you will learn many things by reading an article. Especially peer reviewing means you have to scan, you have to make a thorough study. It's a kind of research only that will help you in your writing indirectly and in your analysis indirectly. That's a good job. Please take it up. Take it up.
Sure, sir.
Any academic things is good.